Drones attacked Russia's Krasnodar Krai, a key oil hub of the Russian Federation. The Armavir linear production and dispatch station was under attack. A large-scale fire broke out at the facility. Local government authorities have officially confirmed the strike on the energy facility. However, the consequences of the attack have not yet been disclosed. Armavir is a major oil hub where oil is stored and loaded into tank cars for further transportation by rail. We are joined by Ivan Tymochko, a military expert. Mr. Ivan, welcome. Good morning.
Thank you. Wishing you good health.
Ukrainian defenders have successfully achieved remarkably significant results on the front lines this winter. So can we talk about a turning point in the trend? Or is this still just a local success? Do we have it?
It is rather not local, since we have disrupted two large-scale offensive operations in the Donetsk and Zaporizhzhia directions. This is absolutely fundamental to understand. Yes, at the very beginning, the enemy forces actually managed, let's say, to impose their own specific tactics. They were conducting combat operations in this continuous infiltration and leveraging their significant strategic advantage in aviation. However, nevertheless, we see that essentially every single one of the deadlines and all the time frames set before the Russian troops, in terms of advancing to operational spaces both in the Zaporizhzhia and Donetsk directions, these plans have actually been thwarted. And even regarding the various towns and settlements they temporarily occupied, Ukrainian defenders still have them either firmly under their strategic control to this day, or they have established strongholds there, let's put it that way, stationary, systematic ones, not just scattered positions that are effectively holding back and repelling the enemy. This is absolutely crucial for the defense. In fact, this is exactly what we are talking about. Moreover, during this winter season, statistical data indicates that with only a minimum of territory occupied, the Russian forces have suffered their most significant losses in personnel. This is greater than ever before, relative to each square meter of occupied territory. This specific and crucial aspect of the situation is certainly no less significant, no less important in the sense that now, once again, it seems, for at least the last 2 months, we have been able to consistently and massively destroy enemy artillery, often totaling several dozen units per day. This is quite serious. Why does this happen? It is because in extremely difficult and harsh weather conditions, when drones are completely unable to take flight, enemy artillery takes over and assumes, let's say, a very large part of the function of striking and attacking our defensive positions. Therefore, when enemy artillery is destroyed in such volumes, it prevents them from creating a barrage of fire, which they used to do quite often, especially at the beginning of the large-scale invasion by the Russian armed forces. During their massive offensives, this barrage was used to support the ground forces of their troops. Another very interesting point to note about this winter is that there has been a steadily growing trend happening essentially every single day. 1, 2, 3, and even 5 units of enemy air defense missile systems. We are systematically destroying every one of them. This clearly means that the enemy is desperately trying to bring in more of these systems into the area to provide essential cover, as close as possible to the very edge of the front lines to cover their advancing offensive formations from our drones, or even from our aircraft, or to protect them from our incoming long-range missile strikes. This is a response to those skeptics who, let's say, claim that we have nothing to strike with. This is precisely evidence that the enemy is trying to pull together all available forces to cover their troops, since the resources allocated to the enemy for offensive operations turn out to be insufficient and not large-scale enough. And there's also the fact that, after all, in the Zaporizhzhia direction, we carried out a number of successful counterattacks and liberated a decent amount of territory in terms of volume. In just a week, that's more than the enemy managed to capture in a month. This is also an indicator. But nevertheless, the fighting continues. It's incredibly intense right now. The enemy is trying not just to attack along the front line, but to stretch the front line itself, taking full advantage of their significant numerical superiority and personnel. And also, unfortunately, their advantage in aviation provides them with a distinct opportunity to do just that. They are able to carry out constant tactical strikes in order to find vulnerabilities and potential weak points in our defense. However, I still can't say that the enemy has now entered some kind of turning point or that the war has reached a decisive phase. The nature of combat operations has changed since we have developed our own tactics in some areas and the enemy has developed theirs. And we have now increased the volume of specific weaponry. This includes missiles and also drones. Meanwhile, the enemy is trying to maintain their current positions or support their troops in different areas, using both ground infantry units and aviation support during these offensives.
Mr. Ivan, you mentioned that we are actively destroying Russian air defense systems on the front lines every single day. And as a result, the Russians are forced to pull everything they have left to the front. And in particular, our most recent and highly successful strike on the Krasnodar region, on an important oil hub of the Russian Federation, serves as a clear demonstration of the fact that Russia does not have enough air defense systems. And what is the current overall situation and capacity regarding Russian production of such systems and the missiles for them?
If we're talking about, you mentioned the Krasnodar region as an example, right? This specific area, well, once again, maybe not everyone fully understands exactly why this direction or this settlement is so incredibly important and strategic. The thing is, there is also a major airfield, a functional airport, and this key location of Armavir. This location serves as a critically important key station that connects two major Russian ports situated on the Black Sea, which are areas we have consistently targeted, focusing specifically on their vital oil terminals. Now, a significant strike has been carried out on Armavir, which is important because Armavir serves as a junction for two separate railway branches. One of these branches travels from Armavir to the port of Tuapse, while the other branch provides a direct and crucial logistical link to the port of Novorossiysk. I think it now becomes clear why such a destroyed railway junction is so important, especially since railway junctions, Russia utilizes these facilities specifically to support its army and to facilitate essential military logistics operations. That is to say, a substantial and significant volume of fuel from this junction station was going directly to the Russian army. To give you an idea of the scale, I came across a specific figure, of course I understand, but most likely it was even higher during the war, that this railway station at one point in time, say in the year before 2022, handled 160,000 rail cars in a year. Can you imagine what kind of volume that is? And with the onset of hostilities, I think it increased to an even greater extent. The throughput, the specifics, or let's say the passage of railway cars through it. Therefore, if we are talking now about the destruction of such key stations, we are definitely talking about transportation, where both for Russian aviation and for Russian air defense systems, supplies were delivered as a complete set. That is certainly the case, especially for those exact same defensive systems covering these ports. Russian ones, whether located in Novorossiysk or Tuapse. That's for sure, because for the large S-300s and S-400s, the missiles, roughly speaking, are in containers. You can't just transport them by any vehicle.
It could be.
Those same strikes on the factories that we recently learned about.
I will have to limit your time, unfortunately, because we have the next segment coming up, so please, another 30 seconds.
It is very important to note that this strategic strike was carried out on this Russian factory, which is responsible for directly producing Kalibrs, Iskanders, Bulavas, and intercontinental Yars missiles. So this is quite a successful example. If they can't protect such vital and essential key stations, such critically important strategic facilities, it would indicate that there is a significant failure with their air defense, and it's a clear sign that we have means that are remarkably and consistently effective against Russia.